The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone to the monthly Gamesalad meetup. Today we're going to talk about joysticks. I got Brian here, one of our senior engineers. Of course, myself, Alan, who is the lead developer here running the meetup. Tonight we're going to talk about joysticks, and of course that goes hand in hand a little bit with Fire TV and other devices that we do support. So if you guys want to hold your questions for the end, I'll do a whole round of questions. It shouldn't take us more about 30 minutes to get through the slides. All right, let's get started. So what is a joystick or gamepad? Really, when it boils down to it, it's a collection of analog devices that are collected together on some piece of plastic. So as you see there, there's a Logitech. I've got another one here, which I can't see very well. But all these devices and all these buttons on here are all technically analog. They all have min-max values, but the way you can separate the bigger analogs from the digital ones is the digitals have a min-max value of 1, 0. So if you really boil it down, it's a collection of analog and digital buttons. Talking over some medium. So modern joysticks, no longer are we in the days of serial joysticks. We're in USB and Bluetooth, which all fall into the HID category, which is human interface device. This is a standard that they came up with around the time USB to make it easier for these devices to communicate with computers. So you no longer had to know what bits to read over the serial device. You could just use the standard and immediately know what the device was, what its values were, and how it was going to react. The HID usually comes from something connected from the USB or Bluetooth. In this case, in joysticks, they all mainly do that. There's not really many that come over a different protocol. And all of them have a unique ID and product ID, which they get from the USB standard board. You can theoretically make joysticks without them, but you're not supposed to. But all joysticks have a registered vendor ID and product ID, which uniquely identifies them from other ones. And like I said, they're made up of what's called elements. So an analog stick here is an element. The D-pad is an element. And these have min-max values and usage pages and usages to help you identify what they're supposed to do. So modern joystick APIs, things, pardon me, things like direct input. Android has one, which I haven't found a name for. Apple game controller classes. What these do is they abstract away the HID layer so that programmers don't have to deal with the nitty-gritty aspects of, well, what is this device? Oh, I see it's got a min value of 1, 0. Maybe it's a button, or maybe it's a D-pad. They abstract that away so you don't have to necessarily directly deal with the HID layer. You can talk in buttons and joysticks and analog sticks, similar like you would in direct input. You'd say, I want to know what the analogs, I want to know what the x-axis is doing right now, not what is device 35 doing currently. And they also help with mapping. If you're just looking at HID, you may not know that this, is the X button. It's very likely this comes back as button 20 something or whatever you have. They don't actually have unique IDs on these. You kind of have to make up your own IDs for them. But these modern joystick APIs like direct input solve that problem by mapping them for you and helping you deal with that kind of situation. So what are the problems with dealing with joysticks? Why do people not have joysticks in all their games? I really started looking into this problem when I was trying to play Rayman with my daughter and finding that a lot of third-party joysticks just didn't work. Some of the problems are the usage tables. They're not required to make the usage tables make sense. Actually, there are several controllers like the PS3 who have a bunch of controls that have the same usage page and table. And so there's no real easy way to distinguish what this control does or this element does versus this element. All the APIs are completely platform dependent. Apple's all written in Objective-C. Their older ones are written in C. Android is written in Java primarily. Microsoft's are all going to be in C, maybe some C#. So you have to deal with a lot of really hard dependency issues and language issues to put joysticks in your game, especially if you have a cross-platform game. The dead zones on analog sticks are horrendously to deal with. Some joysticks have really, really good zeroing values, like you leave them alone, and dead zone refers to the space that you have to move before you actually get values. A lot of joysticks don't have some of them don't have any dead zones. They just wildly spit out values wherever the analog stick lands. A lot of them don't have rest values in the center. You'd think between this value and this value, the middle would be where they rest. That's not always the case. The Xbox is a great example. The Xbox controller actually, when you let go, does not go back to the center where it normally rests. So every time you let go of it, it's a little bit different. And these are all per joystick. So you have to kind of either come up with universal systems to make your dead zones, or you have to do it per joystick. Some drivers help you, and some joysticks have built-in dead zones, but it's not always the standard and it's not required. And there's many ones like the Sony's PS3 controller or have no dead zones at all. And other gamepads can pretend to be other ones. A great example is Logitech's 310 joystick. There's a switch on the back that switches it from X input to direct input mode. And how they dealt with that is they just take the joystick, pretend like it was an old dual action controller. And in that case, it looks like the dual action joystick identically when you look at it. So you may have some situations like that. Sometimes people rewrite them in the drivers. A lot of times you'll see, like on Mac, the Xbox One driver actually pretends and rewrites the Xbox One controller to pretend to be a 360 controller. I've also seen things on Windows where they'll rewrite the PlayStation Sony controllers to be Xbox controllers so that they'll fall into the X-axis APIs. And some elements pretend to be other types of elements. The greatest example is this hat stick, and I don't know if you can see it very well. I'll try to move the camera. Maybe not very well. Okay. So you'll find a lot of 8-way D-pads are not actually 8 buttons. They're actually what's called a hat stick. If you ever had a joystick that's got a little thumb on the top, that's called a hat stick. And what it is it's a button or a device that has 8 directions, and 1 being the rest. So it doesn't actually function like 4 buttons. It actually functions like 8 inputs with 1 rest value. So they don't function how you normally think buttons should function. And that becomes problematic too, because the Xbox controller's D-pad does actually function like 4 buttons. So if you have to have code that deals with both kinds of D-pads. And this doesn't actually, there is actually in usage tables for D-pads, but this doesn't report itself as a D-pad because it can't. Because gamepads don't technically have hat sticks. And so the other problem you have is this gamepad here, this dual action, doesn't actually register itself as a gamepad. It actually registers itself as a joystick because it has a hat stick on it. So Gamesalad, we took care of all these problems and made it so working with joysticks and gamepads is a dream. How do we do this? Well, we've added some new device attributes. You'll see here there's a bunch of player attributes now. We support up to 8 players. They all have different, as joysticks join, they get assigned to players. And you see under the player attributes, we have joystick attributes, and they give you information about what the joystick is. They have the name, the vendor ID and product ID, which I mentioned in the other slide, does only 100% on the Mac. Unfortunately, Android decided they wouldn't give that information up until KitKat, and so I haven't put in the code yet to deal with the KitKat issue. And joysticks can have the following elements. You can have a D-pad. We support 4-way D-pad, up, down, left, right. I should mention these are all these are Booleans. We take care of the problem where if this shows up and this shows up, to you, these are both 4-button D-pads. You don't have to deal with this crazy analog stick D-pad. A, B, X, and Y, pretty standard. Your standard, Microsoft Xbox control buttons. Start, select. Not all controllers and gamepads have a select button. Like Android, for example, pardon me, a lot of them use select as the back button. But I have seen Android controllers like the the SteelSeries Free, which actually has it as one too. L3 and R3, which are the thumbsticks when you click on these, and then also the R2s and L2s up here, the top one. And not all of them have R2s. A lot of controllers will either have the triggers, the analog triggers, like the Xbox does, or the PlayStation 4, or they'll have actual buttons, like the PlayStation 2 does. And then you said here, left stick, right, your standard analog sticks, and then your triggers, which are analog sticks. The name up there as well, we give you the name of the joystick. That may differ on the Mac. I kind of make the names more human readable. You'll get weird things like, I think the Xbox 360 controller shows up as Microsoft's wireless controller or something like that, some craziness. And the PlayStation 4 one shows up as PlayStation at copyright 4. They just show us really weird names, so I try to make them something more human readable. So we go through the attributes again. Here we got the connected, which clearly tells you whether or not the joystick is connected to the device you have. The name of the joystick, the vendor ID, which is the HID vendor ID, which unfortunately you can't actually look up. They don't actually give access to it in the USB standard and the product ID. But these will help you if you need to, for example, if you have something where you really want to do something special with like the Xbox controller, you can say, if the vendor ID is this and that, then I know it's the Xbox controller, I want to do something special with it. D-pads are always 4-way. We don't support 8-way D-pads. You'll find that the A-way, basically, if you push up in the diagonal, it's going to be up. We do support pushing 2 at the same time, so that's how you get around. If you have a 4D D-pad and you want to know if I push kind of up in the diagonal, it's going to be right and left, or left and up for that. Down is true, up is false. And again, not all joysticks have select. L2 and R2 are triggers. So analog elements, again, the dead zone we make sure is 0 for you. You do not have to worry about the dead zone. We auto-calibrate all the joysticks. If you find you plug in and the calibration is wrong, just unplug it, let go of the joystick, plug it back in, and it'll recalibrate automatically. So 0 is guaranteed to be the center. Analog sticks go from -1 to +1, where -1 is up and left, and +1 is down and right. And on the triggers, the analog triggers, 1 is pressed and -1 is released. So there's a few new game attributes as well to help you out on this. There's key mappings and player types. The key mappings will allow you to map any button from a player to a keyboard. So if you have your game already set up for keyboard logic, you can just go in here and enter in the keys that you want to assign to the gamepad, and we'll throw the key event for you. This way, if you don't have to go back and retrofit your games. It makes retrofitting games really, really easy. You just got to fill the information with your keys and you're good to go. Single player and multiplayer types. So if you have it set to single player, all the controllers that are plugged in will funnel their input through player 1. And the idea here is it's a single player game. The game user has 2 or 3 joysticks plugged in. He's supposed to pick up any joystick and go. On multiplayer, it's going to be a first come, first serve. So if I plug in one controller, it's player 1. If I plug another one, it's player 2, etc., all the way to 8, and the 9th one will just fall off. It won't be actually connected to anything. So a couple other things about the Fire TV remote and the Fire TV itself. So we support both the gamepad and the remote. The gamepad is the actual controller. It's a similar thing like this. The remote is, clearly here it's demonstrated. There are 2 new options in publishing to help you with this. The there's the support Fire TV remote. So if you don't want to support the Fire TV remote, you can unclick the Fire TV remote, and it will never show up in the player. And the back button quits the app. The Kindle Store doesn't allow you to have the back button quit the app. So if you have it selected that you want the back button to quit, that won't work in the store, so you need to unselect that so that your back button doesn't actually quit your app. And also we demote the remote, and the thought is that if you connect a gamepad controller, if there's a player 2 who has the Fire TV remote, you connect the gamepad controller, we assume you want to use the gamepad controller, not the remote. So the remote will just completely get demoted down the player list until it falls off. And the menu button you see here is the start button for it. And this is up, down, oh, you can't see that. The start button here is the menu. The 3 little blinds is the start button on Android. This will work on Fire TV or Android. The D-pad there, which is the circle ring you see, holding it vertically up is the top upward, down, left, right, and the center is A. So here are all the supported controllers, all the controllers we support on Mac, which is quite a lot. We try to pick all the really popular ones that everyone would ideally want. There are quite plenty of them. I'll let you know the Xbox ones you will need a third-party driver for that does not work out of the box. The PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, 4 all work fine out of the box. All the series, all those work right out of the box. On Android, you can use any supported Android controller. Android does allow you to plug in non-designed Android controllers, and they map them to wherever they want. We found some of them don't map quite right, so you're going to have to kind of test if you don't use a joystick designed for Android. But almost any Android designed controller will work on any Android device or the Fire TV. So a couple things to watch out for. Do not use the button to change scene. Why is this? Because remember, when you're holding down the buttons, and if we reevaluate your behaviors, that button is going to be reevaluated probably at the same state, because the human and joystick cannot release the button fast enough before our logic reevaluates. So we want to watch the value of the button and keep track of that. So if you see it down, then you set some attribute to change scene, but you set it to false before you change the scene. So when you go to the next scene, you're not going to automatically try to change again. To do Android requires Android 4.1. Joysticks were not supported before Android 4.1. Key mappings are not automatic. So we go back to the key mapping slide. We don't fill this information in for you. What you need to do is go in here and you see the blank spots here where the lines are. You click there twice. It's a text box, and you're in the same text as you would from a key event. So like if you want the up arrow, it would be up, the word up. Some things when you switch to the Fire TV Store. The Fire TV Store, you need to make sure you don't have UI buttons on the screen if they can't be highlighted or selected. So just having a pause button, even though you have start as pause, they'll reject you for that. You need some type of highlight around the buttons to show that you're selected that one. There's a whole bunch of rules. I'm not going to go into all the rules, but there's a link down there if you want to go read through their rules and guidelines for what to submit. So that's about it for my presentation. I'll go ahead and field questions. Just go ahead and type them out, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have on joysticks or Fire TV or whatnot. Or maybe I've just done such a good job there's no questions at all. Let me see if the questions are over here. No questions? Anybody? You raise your hand too if you want. If you have an audio question, you can feel free to raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so Amazon ads. We don't support the Amazon ads yet. I think there might be a feature request into that when we were thinking about that. Unfortunately, after I put in all this stuff, I found out the Amazon Fire TV doesn't have a web browser. And Chartboost and RevMop require a web browser to move you to the store. So unfortunately, all the ad fryers we have don't work on the Fire TV. If you guys really want Amazon ads, I would recommend a feature request and go vote. Oh, sorry, down here. We got another question here. When publishing for Fire TV, which target do we choose? Okay, so there are 3 targets depending on what you can see. The Fire TV target is for the promotion, is accessible by pro and free users. It will only run on the Fire TV. The Kindle target will run on all Kindle devices and the Fire TV. So if you want to manually target that platform, that's a good target to go with. Or the Android one will work as well, but you need to make sure you don't have the back button quitting the app. You probably want to use GameCircle or Amazon Fire TV or Amazon in-app purchase, and it'll work fine. The Android one will run on everything. Well, turning on multiplayer affect performance. It should not know. You're just going to get more joysticks talking, but no, it should affect performance. Yeah, I was just saying one thing. We cache the inputs, but we've already verified that there's no physical way for you to push the button twice in the same frame. I think it's, we're on 60 frames per second, Brian, or 30? 30, so we're what, 0.33 milliseconds?
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you can somehow magically push a button faster than 0.33 milliseconds, you might get 2 buttons a frame, but I don't think anybody human possibly can do that. So Brian and I we tested tons of spamming, and there was no way we could get 2 button presses at the same time on the same element. I was being distracted, so I missed it. But how would you reference the button on a Fire TV? Okay, so yeah, let's go through a little examples. Let me go grab the Fire TV remote real quick. Let me go grab the two remotes. We'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to hold this up here and we'll see if everybody can see this, and I'll walk over here so maybe everybody can see it. All right, so here is, and I can't fully block myself. All right. Take 2. All right. There's the Fire TV remote, and we'll go back to the slide so we can actually see it in better, because that's still a terrible thing to see. Okay. So the Fire TV remote is vertical. The circle ring here is up, down, left, and right for D-pad. The center button is the A button, and the 3 lines here is the start button. And so you just access them like you normally would any gamepad. You play if you wanted to find out later, if the center button was pressed, it'd be player devices, player 1, or whatever player you want to look at this for. Player 1 dot A button, and that would tell you whether or not the center button was pressed. And the ring is just a D-pad. How will multiplayer work on a Fire TV? Just like every other multiplayer will work on every device. It's got networking, and you can easily do it. Yep, just like a standard Android device. So you would use the network feature to call out to your server and populate whatever data you have, or if you're using Place Together, that will work as well. It's the same way as well. So ideally, you could have 2 people playing multiplayer on one device on the Fire TV, and like another 2 people playing another device. Like a board game or something like that going, or something like that. Jonathan's talked about doing like an 8-player board game or something like that. So yeah, it'll work fine. Any other questions people have? I can answer for them. No, it is not. All right, so I'm sorry. Scott asked, does the build use HTML5 or Android? It uses Android. It is completely a native engine. No HTML5. Access to other controllers. Yeah, so Robert asked, can you access other controls remote? Right now, I don't have the rest of them mapped. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. We just didn't know whether you guys want that or not. I can completely map, if you guys want, the media remotes on here. I'm not quite sure what buttons we'd want, maybe X, Y. But just put a feature request in for what buttons you want mapped to what, and we can easily do that. But right now, you only have access to the D-pad on the remote, the start button, the A button, which is the center button here, and then on this remote here, which is the Amazon Fire remote, you have access to all the buttons except for the back button, home button, the game circle button you don't have access to, and these bottom buttons. But all the rest, the triggers, the the L2, LRV clicks, all that you have access to on the gamepad. IAT support. Scott asked about IAP for the Fire TV. Yes, Amazon's IAP service will work. Google's will not. You need to use Amazon's IAP service. It'll work fine on the Fire TV. So will GameCircle. Leaderboard achievements work fantastic on the Fire TV using GameCircle. I said, if anybody has any audio questions, feel free just to raise your hand, and I'll unmute you, and you can ask away. Scott asked, will Gamesalad support wearables like Apple Watch or Pebble? I've looked at the Apple Watch API, and right now it doesn't do anything for us. We can't even run OpenGL on it. So we're going to have to do a wait and see on Apple's Watch. I haven't looked exactly into the Pebble stuff, but most of the watches and wearable stuff isn't designed to run games. Games take a lot of power, and they take a lot of CPU and processing. And most of the wearable devices don't have the power to barely run any type of game. We can definitely look at some of the SDKs for Android, but as far as I can tell what I've seen, most of them are for notifications, things like that. I'm not opposed to people who have ideas, but you're going to have to give realistic ideas, because most of the time when we talk the Apple Watch discussion, it's about, well, I want to run this game on it, and that's just not possible. Like, the watch is just not going to let you do that, because you're going to drain your poor users' battery before you can get through like level 1. But if you guys have ideas, I'm up to doing features if the community feels there's a feature, and I suggest using the feature request system for that. That I already suggest, yeah. Scott, I was talking Android Wear, yeah. And again, Android's got a lot of stuff. I haven't looked fully into Android Wear's stuff, because most of the things I've seen are not even close to the Apple Watch power. But yeah, if you have some ideas, I'd say put a feature request in. That would be the best way to go about that. Is there any difference between the Fire TV and Fire TV Stick? Yes, there is, but not ones you're going to probably notice. Let me go pull it up. So if you haven't been here, this is Amazon's Fire TV developer site. It's kind of handy to poke through and whatnot. Let's see if I can find the part. They differ in hardware performance. Here we go. So here's the lovely link here. It's this horrible, horrible link. I'll post this as the answer to your question here so you can get that link. If I can get down here, do that. 1 second, I'll just post that link down for you. Okay, now I can see the questions over here. Okay. Fire Stick and Fire TV. You want to go here. And that'll give you a list of the spec. Most of them are just performance issues. You'll see that they all have the same resolution. Pixel density is pretty similar. Storage is the same. You'll notice that the RAM's a little different, where you only get 512 RAM on the stick versus 2 gigs. The CPU is not as powerful. You'll notice the CPU on the Fire TV is actually really powerful. It's like a quad-core CPU. It's really powerful. But the stick has only got a dual-core 1 gigahertz. GPUs differ a little bit. So there's no, the remote doesn't have this thing on it, but so from your standpoint, you're probably just going to see a difference of performance-wise because the Fire TV is, the actual box is a little powerful than the stick, but they support the same controller setup, so controller-wise you won't see any difference, and they should support both in the purchase and the GameCircle. Any other questions you guys have about the Fire TV or sticks or anything else I can answer? Okay, Scott's asking, will you ever support plugins or third-party code so you guys don't have to make everything and have other people? So Gamesalad's engine itself does not really work well with plugins. There's no plugin architecture, and it would be quite a task and also very difficult for you guys to develop plugins for it. It's not an easy code base to deal with. Graphene is a much better place for plugins, and that's where we're going to do plugins. If you guys want to write plugins, Graphene is where you're going to be able to do it. So I have no intent on ever putting plugins in Gamesalad. I just don't think it's the place to do it, and I think Graphene is a far better platform for it. And same thing, I have my usual question regarding Creator Self. Can you be more specific, Ed Castle, about your question about Creator? I don't remember all the questions necessarily. Regarding the, yes, all right, so so Ed's asking about the current slowness for Creator. I literally have been working the last 3 days on switching Creator over to a more performance system. We're going to switch over to what's called Apple Arc system. It's called automatic reference counting. It will get rid of the garbage collector, which is causing all the performance problems. I've got it running. It still has some crashes, so I haven't put it out yet. But you do not see the beach ball problems anymore. Arc takes care of all of them. So yes, I am currently every day working on that to make your guys better. As soon as I get it stable, it will come out to you guys. Probably in the 14th release, because I don't think it's going to be very easy to backport that to 12 or to 13. So yes, 14, we will fix all those performance problems. I am working on it right now. I promise you. Every day, I am working on it. I'm going to put up with some crashes. No, you probably don't want to deal with these crashes. Like, literally, you double-click a character, and it crashes. Like, you get 3 steps in, and it crashes. I'm talking, like, horrific crashes here. Hopefully, I'll have them cleaned up soon. Like I said, as soon as I can get it stable enough where I feel like you can actually do something in it, I will put it out as a nightly build. I promise you guys. Top priority. That's all I'm working on right now is fixing that performance issue. And also, yeah, and then Robert's asking, will the required be a 70? No. Line and higher, just like it's always been. Okay, so Scott's asking about Windows Phone. So I haven't looked at Windows Phone in a while. The last time I looked up, and I actually looked this up a few days ago. Let me go pull up it so you guys can see. I actually, let me stop sharing my screen real quick while I go look this up for you guys. I literally was looking at the stats of the market share of mobile devices. Here we go. As soon as it shows my screen. All right. So I literally looked this up about 3 days ago. And that other 4.6 is Windows Phone and BlackBerry and I can't remember, Nokia's old OS. So it's 4.6 of the market, and it's only 3% of the world. So it has a small market share. So right now we have no plans. Again, if you guys really want that, you can always are welcome to put a feature request in. If that's the top voted feature, we'll look into it. You're very welcome, Ed. I just said thank you. Any other questions I answer for you? And also, Windows Phone, if we ever did support it, it would be Windows Phone 8 or higher. Windows Phone 7 doesn't have C++ support. Will Graphene support plugins in the visual editor like plugins in the particle and the plugins? Let me read that again. Scott's asking, will Graphene support plugins in the visual editor like plugging in a particle plugin and moving around the visual editor? I don't know yet. We're still figuring that out ourselves. Ideally, I would like to support full plugins, but it's a lot of work, and I don't know yet. Honestly, we're still talking about it. Ideally, we'd like to, but I have no ETA plans or know when that feature will actually be put in or if. So you're just going to have to stay tuned to it, Scott, and keep badgering us until I actually have an answer for you. Sorry, I know it's no answer, but it's the best I got. I know we're going to work on engine plugins, so I know that's coming, but CodeWiz or I have been going back and forth about whether or not we should do, when we should do them, if we should do them, because there's some issues with how you would interface with them and whatnot. But you know, I think it's a nice feature, but again, we have so much for making a whole new system from scratch. It's kind of fallen on the back burner. But just keep badgering us, and I have an answer, a better answer for you. I'll give you one. Do you think 3D can be done as easily as 2D in Gamesalad? What do you think, Brian McQuay? In that you're a 3D programmer and graphics extraordinaire. 3D adds a lot of complicated math to the system.
Basically, we are planning in Graphene to allow the importing of 3D objects eventually. Probably not with the first version when it goes out, but we'll write a plugin that allows you to do that. And what the plugin will do is essentially render a 3D object in a 2D plane with all the lighting and normal mapping and specular highlights and everything, as if it was a 2D object. So it'll look all 2D because there'll be a fixed camera, but there'll definitely be 3D objects with 3D animation and everything that supports. Getting that into Gamesalad would be extremely difficult. So
yeah, Gamesalad has no concept of that kind of stuff, and yeah, the code base is much harder to deal with.
It comes down to what your camera is and how you want to control your camera. In a 2D world that Graphene and Gamesalad are, you have a fixed perspective on your 3D art, but we can definitely, it'll take a lot of work to get the animation working, because that's the biggest piece in 3D.
So technically, if you brought a 3D engine as a plugin in and had it write out a texture,
then you could do it.
Theoretically do it in graphics.
Yeah, it definitely could do it.
But I'll put it this way: we'd like to learn, as you know, you saw, we like to master 2D first before we even start talking about 3D. You know, we need to walk before we can run. So we want to provide you the best 2D experience first before we even talk about 3D. Any other questions I can answer for you guys? Oh, more of them. I've heard Mac, but I hear Windows has not had an update in a while. Any plans? Yes. Steve Jakob, who you've seen on the forums at Steve J, literally switched back to Windows yesterday and is currently polishing up the Windows build so that we can get it out. We're going to put it out to 14. The idea is that the next release, which is 0.14, will come out as Mac and Windows and will be fully compatible between the two. If everything goes well, and do not hold me to this date, because I will tell you the date is probably not going to happen. But ideally, we'd like to have it out somewhere in April, March. In March, someplace beginning April. Don't hold me to that. It's going to be a tight fix if we get there. So for a rough estimate, say like 2 months or more. But the idea is that 14, they'll both come out, and Windows guys, you will have full access to all the features, including Joysticks, on your platform. We'd like to get out build soon here in the next week or two to allow you guys to get a little more preview of it and also give you access to Fire TV. So if you're on Windows, you'll be able to actually build Fire TV apps. And we're just dealing with some very terrible crashes right now. And we're also just got, pardon me, the nightly build rebuilding. It's been so focused on Fire TV, we've kind of let the code kind of sit there. But Steve is working very diligent to get you guys a good Windows build out. So hopefully very soon you guys will have a great Windows build. Because yeah, it's been way too long since we had a good Windows build out. All right. Are there any plans to implement push notification in Gamesalad with multiplayer, particularly in mind, as async is more useful with push notifications? Ed asking this. So yeah, there's stuff in place together that allows you to do push notifications. We just haven't had a chance to really focus on that, and it hasn't really been a big feature from the users. We have a feature request system, right, and you guys didn't vote that up as one of the top features. So to us, it doesn't seem like you guys find that important. If you feel that's really important, maybe we misjudged that. You guys should get together and vote for those features and vote them up. If that becomes like one of the top ones, then I'll be happy to put it in. It's a little tricky because all the different platforms have their own push notification, but I'm not opposed to it. Any info coming about graphics? CoWizard has not released any information on the 48 days. Oh, graphene, I'm sorry. Any information on graphene? Honestly, I actually haven't looked at graphene in a couple weeks because I've been so focused on Fire TV and the performance issues in Gamesalad. I know they're working hard on it, and they've been doing a bunch of good alpha testing on it, and I actually don't know the release date. He and I talked about it a lot, and we still don't have a good release date. It's hard. Like, you know, it's like going to Microsoft and asking them, hey, why don't you rebuild Word and then let us know when it's coming out? And they'll be like, we'll let you know when it gets close. You know, Because look at Windows 10, right? Windows 10, they don't tell you necessarily. Windows 10 took what, maybe 6 months to a year for them to put that out. This large of software, it's just hard to nail down a date. And all I can say is just keep on looking at forums, and if you can get into the alpha program, that's great. You can get the actual alpha builds. But I don't know. I can maybe answer some specifics if I know them, but there's a lot of things that are still being discussed, and the build is still being finalized, and there's still features needing to be put in. So I don't know exactly necessarily what you're looking for, but they're still working on it hard. Perhaps a sticky on the forums list of current feature requests that people know there. I got that for you. We have a place. Bugs.gamesalad.com has a list of all the top features right there for you to look at. Here are the top feature requests. I will post that in your thing here so you can find it. You go there are the top creator feature requests, and there are the top engine feature requests, and then also the publishing ones. Well, I just kind of merge creator and engine together because sometimes those overlap. What you see, number 1, polygon collision support, video ads, custom fonts. This one here I'm kind of just putting as a bug. Yeah, I know you guys want that, and I'm working on it daily. I'll probably move that over to a bug and just give you guys updates on that. Android expansion files, joints, sound behavior. So you can see there are a lot of other features people want before push notification. If you feel you really want push notification, then by all means, start a campaign and vote it up. Pretty much what I've been doing is after, I think it's 14, we're just going to go straight down this list. And we've actually already implemented some of the features on here. If you notice, I always get the name of this wrong. AdMob is no longer on here because we got it in. It's in the nightly build. The next nightly build will have AdMob in it with banner ads for Android, AdMob support for iOS and Android, and I think AdMob supports interstitials maybe too. So we got the whole shebang. You guys voted for it, and we did it. So that's where you should go to see what the current feature requests are. All right. So Francis asked, when will there be template tutorials on implementing joysticks for our game? Yes, Jonathan has some, and we meant to release them. Pardon me. We meant to release them with the last build, but unfortunately he got backlogged and wasn't able to complete all of them. So let me talk to him tomorrow and see if I can get them linked in here, and we'll release the insect intruders with joystick support and whatever other ones he has are already done. If I forget, just pester me on the forums. But yeah, we'll release some of those tomorrow. Also, there's a great cookbook place for you guys to go if you need you want really good how I want to know step by step. I saw this presentation, it was great, but I want to actually see it in words. This is the official cookbook documentation for controllers and support. Pardon me. Lists out everything here and how to do it, and all the controller support, and it's got nice pictures. So if you have questions after this that I can answer, there's a great place to go as well. And I'll try to make sure we get some templates up somewhere. Eventually they will just be in the creator itself, but I haven't had a chance to do that. Will Graphene come out? So Scott's asking will come out in 2015. Honestly, I don't even know, dude. I'm sorry, Scott. Scott, I honestly do not have an answer for that. I personally don't know. Code Wizards doesn't know. It's on a month-by-month basis, and we're trying to evaluate when it's going to come out. That's how hard it is. It's we're building a very large code base with very many moving parts, and trying to nail that exact time down is just not good enough. If we don't have any idea, it's like looking at Magic 8 Ball. I could just throw out wild numbers to you, but they're probably not going to be right. So even if I had some ballpark, it's probably going to be wrong. So honestly, we don't know. I would love to give you the answer if I knew, but I do not know the answer to that. Polygon Collision support in 15. Yes, that is when it's planned to be put out. Polygon Collision is planned, I believe, 15 or maybe it's 16. Let me think. 0, 50, or 16? I think it's 16, because I think we have a few things on Windows Creator that need to be straightened up on 15. Once I get 14 out, you'll know. It's either 15 or 16 I have it scheduled for. Let me see real quick if I can find it. I think I have it in the roadmap. Let me check the roadmap. If it's on the public roadmap, I'll go look it up real quick. Where's the Gamesalad roadmap? soon. On there. All right. Let me go look it up real quick. I have this written out. Apologize for 1 second while I go dig this out real quick. I always forget which way it's set up. I have a plan. I just can't. I haven't got exactly all of it out on the roadmap yet. Man, this site's taking a long time today. All right. The current plan as it stands now is okay, 16. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's 16. Got a couple features that are going to come out in 15. Maybe if we get them done fast enough, we can get it out in 16. It'll be 16. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Scott. 16. That's when it's scheduled for. I'm not sure, Robert asked, I'm not sure what the game player versus device player is. How can I access device players? All right, let me go in and open up Gamesalad here and show you. Just give me 1 second. So I have some, I got a couple of joystick things here. So I'm going to pull up this joystick. This is actually what we used to test internally with our stuff. QA made this for me. So if we open up a scene here, we go into device attributes. You'll see in devices there's a bunch of players. So these are the actual current values of the joystick. They get set. The game attributes allow you to do things with the key mapping. So if I wanted the up to be space, I can literally type space in here and then hitting the up D-pad on the controller will cause the space key event to get fired. So if I have an actor, so I'll go a blank scene so you guys can see a blank actor scene. So if I had a blank actor here, and I wanted to say I want to do something when the D-pad is pressed, I would go in here and go to Devices, Players, Player 1 if I was doing single player, and I would say D-pad up. And when that's true, you know, right, and then I could copy that, paste it here, and say D-pad not pressed. And change this horribly defaulted color, which at some point I will fix. Right, and I turn this, oops, how do I put the actor in the scene? Oh, I should do that. Put the actor in here, make him kind of large so we can see it. Bam. And probably want to plug something in, so I'll plug in a controller here. Make it a little bigger for you guys to see. And so then if I push up, but the same way, if I wanted to have it work the key so that I didn't have to actually do it this way, I could also put in a different one. I can remove this one, and I could say when key up is down, then I would need to go into the scene, go into the attributes, go to player 1 mapping, and go to here and put up. And now you see it work the exact same way. I just switched over using keys instead of actually referencing the actual joystick itself. Scott asked, any templates on the networking feature? Which one, Scott? The plays together or the one by building yourself? Because we have stuff for building your own server, which we did on a couple meetups ago. If you go on our YouTube channel for Gamesalad meetup group, which is in the Gamesalad, it's just channel or in the Gamesalad YouTube channel page. We have that tic-tac-toe game with a server code example to do a multiplayer game with your own server. Plays together, we don't quite. Steve did one in February. He did a talk on plays together, and you can watch that one. And we think we have the template for that as well. So we have 2 examples. So yes, we do have some. I would go to look at the forum posts for those 2 meetups, and if you actually want to see in action, go watch the meetup video. Ed asks, can the same key be assigned to multiple buttons? If you have one touch game, you can assign the action to every button without lots of conditions. Yes, I think I know what you're saying. Yes, you can do that. So for example, if I want, in attributes, if I want the down D-pad to also press up, then I can go in here, and if I push down or up, they're both going to throw the up. So yes, you can have multiple keys. You can have the same key assigned to the 2 different buttons. But you can only have 1 key assigned to 1 button. We don't support multiple keys for the same button. Okay, both. Yes, Scott. So I believe we posted them in the forum thread for those meetups. I have to go dig in the forums to find them. But yes, they are out there. If you can't find them, send me a message on the forums and I'll help track them down. But yes, we have example code for both. They're more of a advanced user templates. They're not like a really common well, but yes, we have them, and we'd be happy to share them with you. Is full Ouya support coming? We don't have plans for Ouya, but if you guys want to put a feature request in and that's the platform you want, we could. The problem with Ouya is that its market share is kind of dwindling, and they also have some weird things to do with their icons. But the joystick support does work. You can sideload your app onto Ouya and it works. We're just missing a few pieces to some Ouya stuff. But we aren't going to support it unless you guys put that as a feature request. So we have no short-term goals or plans to do Ouya support unless that's something that comes up the feature list. Is Android TV supported? I don't have Android TV, so I haven't tried it yet. I do know one thing that's going to stop you is that the Android Nexus TV, or I think it's called the Google Player TV, actually doesn't run on ARM. It runs on Intel, which is the processor architecture, and our code is only compiled for ARM. So right now, our games will not run on that. Again, if you guys want that as a support platform, put it in as a feature request and vote it up. Ed's asking, how hard would it be to get the ability to put table names in attributes? It's kind of thing that a lot of people would use, but not many would vote on. This is not a flashy feature. Table names and attributes. Are you talking about so that you can make a new attribute of type table? I'm a little confused. Can you be a little more specific? Or if you want, I can put you on the speaker here, and you can, if you want to talk to me in audio, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you, and you can ask your question a little more specific. Okay, we'll do, Ed. Let me find you on here. Oh, you got 2. Which Ed are you? Raise your hand, Ed, so I know which one you are. All right. Unmuting Ed. All right, can you hear us, Ed? Hello? Is audio up? Here we go. Open it up. Let me try muting both. Hello, can you hear us? I have you unmuted, though. One of you says you don't have a microphone connected, so you might try unplugging your microphone. You have like 2 instances of yourself running, and I can't seem to unmute you properly. Yeah, you have one of your Eds doesn't have a supported microphone, the other one does. I've got you both unmuted. Let me try muting this one. Is that working? Can you hear me? Or I guess you can hear me, but I still can't hear you. Are you unmuted yet? Okay. So pick which one you want here, and I will unmute you. Okay, I have both unmuted. Are you unmuted, Ed? Okay, so we can't quite get them muted, so they'll type it in. Okay. While Ed's typing, anybody else have any other questions I can answer for you? Okay, so Scott asked, and maybe this would be better for the entire meetup group can answer this. Just raise your hand if you have a comment on this. Scott asked, should your paid app have ads in it? What's your guys' opinions? Actually, you know, we can do a poll here. Let's just do a poll. I'm going to make a new poll, and we'll do it this way, if I can figure out how to make a poll in here. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. I got to go figure out how to do these polls. Create new poll. Here we go. Give me 1 second. I'll do a poll for you, Scott. All right. There you go, everybody. Vote away. Let's find out, Scott, what everyone else thinks. I will continue down. Okay. Okay, Alex asking, is the Android sound delay bug going to be fixed in 14? So Android is the worst, horribly worst platform to deal with this. We've dealt with this since we've introduced Android. So we have our own sound. We use OpenAL on Android so that we don't have an issue having to have multiple sound libraries. Unfortunately, a lot of these devices have horribly large buffers. And we've tried before to get the sound delay as low as we could. We can take in our staff. If you guys want to put a bug in or vote up that bug. I don't know the exact, if you have a bug already, I don't know the exact bug number, but we don't have plans to fix any more audio issues in Android. We tried a couple years ago to get it as best we could, but these Android devices just do a terrible job with OpenAL, and it's really hard to get latency. It's actually a big problem in Android if you do a lot of Google searches on Android audio latency, especially like the Kindle and the Nook devices. But I'm okay taking their stab at it if you think it's a big priority. You can always send me the bug number, and we'll take another look at it and see if we can have time to squeeze it in. Probably won't be able to squeeze into 14. We're pretty full up on 14, but we might be able to squeeze in at 15 to look at the bugs. Okay, let me read this head here. Yes, Ed. Okay, so Ed's asking if he can change table values based on buttons, and it would be easier to have that. So you can kind of do it this way. Maybe this is not how you want to do it. Maybe it'd be easier another way. So you could say, where is the table value? It's been a while since I've done tables in here. Change attribute, change table. I need to change, save table. Where is the table? Can I just not find it? Change attribute. I think we'll just do actually, I don't remember where the table values are. I'm just not seeing them. Yeah, you could say that here. You could do, if I can remember where the table stuff is, because my brain is gone today here. Possible table. Yeah, Ed, why don't you start a forum thread on this, and we can talk about this over on the forum, because I think CodeMonkey might have some ways to help you on that, and I'm not 100% sure why you're using different tables. Oh, I see. You want to go? Oh, I see. You want to index it. Yeah. Why don't we start a forum thread on this, and we can take it offline, and we can discuss it on the forum. I'm not quite sure I'll answer that. I think CodeMonkey might have some answers for you on that. Oh, okay. Oops, sorry about that. Let me screen share. Where? Okay, there we go. Yep, hold on a second. The poll's almost done. Everybody finished voting so I can close the poll. Only 67 voted. And yes, Ed, I'll show you in a second what I was talking about. Yeah, that's fine. Just already a simple project, put a forum post, and we'll talk about it on the forum. Everybody finished voting? It's pretty well skewed, so I'll go ahead and close the poll. There you go, Scott. So the majority of the people think no, you should not have ads in your paid game. Here's my screen again. I have trying problems figuring out where the change table stuff is that I was looking for, but oh, there it is. This is what I was looking for. Yes, this is what I was like. So, and here it'd be on button pressed, change table, and I would do something like probably a search table. As far as the way we had, maybe that was what we were going to add. Find table, text length table, search. I can't remember this table. Yeah, I think Steve and I were talking about having a function which you could resolve the table by name. Text, sub, search, table, search row. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now, Ed. Yeah, we were talking about having like a function that you could just type in the name, and then you could just pass that in, and so you could resolve the table by name. Because we have that code under the hood that already works that way, and we just need to expose it in some way for you guys to be able to do that. So yeah, just put a feature request in, and we can get something out like that. All right, any last questions I can answer or help out with? Scott has, are there any pricing changes for Gamesalad? A lot of interchange prices. We're still discussing that. I can't talk about any ongoing discussions about price changing. We haven't made anything public about it, and I can't mention anything about it. So no comments on that right now. Yes, I agree, Ed. That would be great. Yeah, it's weird that we had to actually have a hard code in there. Yeah, let me see if we can squeeze it in somewhere. It should be pretty easy. We already have the functionality in there. But yeah, ideally I would just like to have it as a find table by name, and it's just a function you can stick in there. You just type string, which we pass from an attribute, you're done. A suggestion on how to replace touch on Fire TV apps. Yeah, it's difficult. Jonathan, our code monkey, went through a lot of this kind of stuff too. So touch might be best replaced by the analog stick, because that's probably the closest you have. Now, like on touch a button, you're going to have to replace with like on button push, right? But say you have like a drag feature where you're dragging the actor around the screen. The best for that would be using the analog sticks to solve that, because they are very similar in nature to that kind of stuff, and they give you an XY coordinate. So you can kind of map the XY coordinate to the screen and do it that way. So that is what I would recommend for touch. If you need to do that, would be to map it to an analog stick. If it's something where you need like only one direction, I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe like Fruit Ninja, maybe. You can use like the trigger. Fruit Ninja probably work better with the analog stick because you do like a swiping motion. But yeah, I would try to take like one of the analog sticks and map that to the screen, and then where they're pushing across the analog stick would be the same thing as they were moving their finger across the screen. That's how I would recommend doing that. Scott asked you going to WWC. No, I don't think any of us are going to WWC this year, Scott. I will be at South by Southwest. If anybody's at South by Southwest, I'll be at the education booth, or the education section. So you can come by and say hi. But no plans for WWC this year. Sorry. Let me make the presenter over here so I can see. There we go. Sorry, anyways, you can see us again. Yeah, we will be here, Scott. So if anybody's down South by Southwest, they can come see us at one of the booths. I'll be there Tuesday of that week and Thursday if you guys want to come by and say hi. All right, any more last minute questions or anything else I can answer? We'll wait a few more minutes to see. Is there any plans to feature third-party sites and resources on Gamesalad's main website? I don't know of any. You'll talk to Dan on that one. I'm not in the loop on that kind of stuff, but I don't know of any, Scott. And Robert says, thank you for adding the Fire TV support. We had a lot of fun with it. You're welcome. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with Fire TV stuff. It does feel kind of like a console, right? It kind of feels like you're getting closer to a console type support. And, you know, joysticks really do lend themselves to a lot of great games, like, you know, like Mario Brothers and those type of games are much more fun to play with them. There's video games you guys made, like Steampunks and whatnot. I'd love to play the joystick and try it out. I have a Fire TV, and I'm trying to, if people bring games into Fire TV, I'm trying to find them and play them, but I haven't had a chance to dig through all of them yet. But I have a Fire TV, so I'm quite happy to try some of your games out as they come through. Looking forward to seeing what you guys have on there. Also, again, you can also, this works completely on Mac. You can totally publish a Mac game in the Mac App Store, and this will work. So that's another outlet, too. If you want to start your hand and try your hand at desktop gaming on that kind of level, you can make a game that works both on the Fire TV and on the Mac. Give some Mac users some love, too. Is the Fire TV a good store for developers? It is not crowded, I will tell you. There's probably maybe 50 games in that store. There are not a lot of games in that store, so getting noticed is not hard. Some big names are coming to the store. They recently released Knights of the Old Republic on Fire TV, which is interesting. Grand Theft Auto's on there, but there's still a lot of indies, and it's really easy to get noticed. Like, you can easily scroll through a category within about a minute, and you've gone through, like, 10, 20 games. So there are definitely a lot of places to grow in that store. And it's definitely become more popular. We actually had problems getting hold of the gamepad controllers. Like, these were sold out on Amazon. Like, we had to actually, I actually happen to have one, but we actually had to call Amazon to get ours in time to get the feature out. So clearly the Fire TV is picking up popularity for users. So I think it's a good store. I don't have personally a game in there, but everything I've seen, from what I can tell, it looks like it's a good store and easy to get noticed because it's not saturated. So I highly recommend if you don't have a game there, go put a game in there. And again, we have that promotion, so if you're thinking about Fire TV, you can go take a look at the promotion, and there's some pretty good prizes there as well. I'm sure there's no one else. Got to ask how the weather is. Actually, it's really nice. It was supposed to ice, and it iced in the morning, and then it cleared up in the evening. So, or actually in the morning. By 12, I drove over here at noon, and there was no water on the roads. So we escaped all of Dallas's problems. Dallas, on the other hand, is another matter. I think there's still got some snow on the ground, but nothing down here. So, I don't know if there's any other polls I have in here. Oh, I got a good poll. I'll add a poll here while we're waiting. If I can figure out how to do that over here. Oops, that's the wrong computer. Oops, I was like, I typed that quickly. Sorry about the grammar in there. And while that poll is going on, wrong one. All right, close that poll and show results. So it looks like most of you are planning to publish Fire TV, which is fantastic. Looking forward to playing all those great games. And I got one more poll while we're on the topic of this. And maybe you never thought about this, so good time to think about this now. And I'll start going through questions while that's up. Scott said he's got 2 Cyber Days in Oklahoma. Yeah, I imagine Oklahoma got a pretty good one. When is the next meetup? Yes, the next meetup is going to be, let me make my calendar up so I have the right days, because apparently I can't count. It will be, I have this actually, where is, I'm just going to have to look it up. Why can I not find anything here? What are they going to do on there to find those? Weird. All right, I'm going to go in here because I looked this up yesterday. It's always the first Thursday of the first full week of the Thursday. Gosh darn it, I can't click anywhere today. I should be more prepared on this. Hold on, Scott. I'll give you the answer in just a second. April 9th. Yeah, that's about right. That's the next meetup. Turnaround from Amazon review for your first. Robert is commenting that the turnaround from Amazon to review your app is 1 day, so much better than Apple. So that's good to hear. Francis comments, the Fire TV seems like an interesting new market. Thanks for the updates, upcoming updates. iOS, Scott's asking iOS controller support. Yes, but I think Windows is going to get support for joysticks first. So if you didn't know, we use my cross-platform open source library called FreeStick. It doesn't currently have iOS support in it. If I can find some free spare days at home to do that, I will. But we kind of need Windows first. So Windows is going to get the treatment first and then iOS. But yes, eventually, yes, it will get support. I do plan to get support for that. And let me close the poll here. So it looks like most of you guys are interested in doing Mac desktop with Gamepad. So it sounds like Joysticks was a good thing. A lot of people like it. So that's great. It's fantastic to hear. Scott's asking if we get spring break off. Yeah, no, we don't get spring break off. That's more of a university thing. All right, last round for any more questions, and we're gonna probably close this down. You guys, like 1 minute or so. Any last minute questions? Scott's asking about sprite sheets. So Brian here can go into a little bit about how the new rendering end system kind of does some of that for you.
Yeah, the new sprite system that's in the nightly build,
which is 14.
14. It automatically rips up all the artwork you give it into 64 by 64 pixel tiles, and then efficiently loads those into one of 4 mega textures. So it's constantly streaming these tiles down into memory, so you basically get sprite sheets for free. It doesn't matter if you put it in a sheet or if you put it as individual objects, it wouldn't matter. So there isn't support for importing sprite sheets.
But you can do things with your art to make your art more sprite sheet friendly or automatic sprite sheet friendly.
The biggest thing for performance of the new system is duplicating those tiles as much as you can. So just like it was in the Super Nintendo days, where everything was built out of 8x8 characters, and then you duplicate those all over the place, and you only had so much tile memory. It's the same now with the new Gamesalad engine. So if you had a 2048 by 2048 image that was all white, that would just get reduced down to 1 tile if it was all exactly white. If it was a gradation of white, then it would create thousands of tiles. So it's best to just like create tiles and stamp them all over the place to get your best optimization.
Yeah. So ideally, if you had a giant blue background that was like 20,000 by 2,000, and it was entirely the same color, our system would make that go down to a 64 by 64 square. And so you get the size of that, but you would only be eating the memory of a 64 by 64. So it's good to composite things. So if you have like a background where most of the area is one color, you should separate that as one actor and then put the other actors in as separate pieces. So we can take that big blue image and make a 64 by 64 square and tile that for you already. And that way you don't have to eat the memory cost of the giant image. Francis asks if Mac 14 and Windows 14 files will be compatible. Yes, they'll be 100% compatible. That is part of the point. We're trying to get both these out at the same time, so if you're on Mac or Windows, it doesn't matter. You can get access to all the features, and you can switch between the two. Yes, they will be compatible. Scott asked, is texture packing already done in Gamesalad, and are there any plans to support it?
What do you mean by texture packing?
Can you be a little more specific on which version of Times texture packing you're talking about? Are you talking about how to pack images efficiently on textures?
We do that automatically for you.
Yeah, he's asking about whether...
As long as they're authored on 64 by 64 boundaries. If you had a giant sprite sheet, a giant image that had an image in the middle, and all the background was exactly white, then there'd be 1 tile for all the white and then multiple tiles for the image inside it. So it would pack really efficiently, automatically for you.
So yes, is your answer yes?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Ed's asking here. I had a bug request regarding an issue related to this. Sample PSD was attached, but it wasn't downloaded. Could we get that PSD posted on the forums? Which PSD? Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Let me go look up what this is. probably just need to test this again. Yeah, we'll go look into this. Image is not loading. There's our image is not loading smoothly. Oh, was this? Ed, was yours the game that had the hand-painted art? It looked like that game with the hand-painted art we were looking at. There was one game we had that we were trying to speed up image loading, and it was because the art was all hand-painted, we couldn't tile it up, and so you were constantly thrashing loading off disk. And so that art, if it was broken up into smaller pieces and could be replicated better, it would work better in the engine. I will have to review this bug. I'm not as familiar with this. Oh, this is where, let's see. Did you, on this one, did you put a, oh, okay. Yes. Somehow your attachment didn't get up there. Yes, Ed, we'll fix that. Let me see if I can just do it here real quick. I get, nope. Copy link, there we go. Yes, Ed, I can actually do it to you right now. Copy link, here we go. Try that out, Ed, and see if that works for you. Okay, I just sent the PSD. Yeah, well, I don't know why the PSD won't show up for everybody. Yeah, I'll double check that it's viewable out externally, but I sent you a link, so hopefully you can get it from there. Will there be a best practice guide on how to set up your art best integrated? Yes, Francis. Yes, we will post a whole entire write-up when this goes out on how to best do it. There was a Gamesalad meetup last year that Brian did about the new rendering system and how to do it. But most of it's going to involve you staying on the 64 by 64 area and trying to make your art as tileable as possible. So if you have a really large image, think about is, could I break this up into 64 by 64 tiles, and how many could I break it up by? And we break it up by repeating color, or what's the
exact match.
Exact match. So we take 64-bit chunks of your image, and if they match 100%, we throw away and keep the original. So if that's how you think about your art. Can this art be squashed down into a few set of tiles that are duplicate? So like if I paint a big squash of red up here in the corner and a big squash of blue down here, then these big blue and red areas will be crunched down to smaller tile sets, and where they're together, you'll have more tile sets. So think about that way. So ideally, if you composite all your art like in Photoshop, letting us composite it would actually probably give you better speed, because we'd be able to take those big, large pieces you're compositing and rip all them down into small pieces. The only kind of subset on that is if you have like a gradient. Gradients would be kind of difficult to tile out. Yeah. You kind of want to minimize the gradients. Okay, Ed got his stuff going. Okay, great. System background for pausing a game coming up on an app closing. Can you be more specific on that, Scott? It's a little generalistic there. Are you talking about like iOS or Android? What kind of pausing? What kind of problems are you seeing now? Background pausing a game on closing on iOS. Oh, I think you might try the Hibernate. I was looking in the engine. There's a Hibernate, that Hibernate event. Let me find it real quick. Hibernate. Let me share my screen here real quick. I was looking at it, and I'm pretty sure this is in there on iOS. There's Hibernate, so that when the app goes in the background, you should get this call. If you don't on iOS, it's an easy thing for us to add. And there's supposed to be a resume, and I don't see it in here. Yeah, so when active Hibernate, you can do something when it goes in the background. Is that what you're asking, Scott? Pardon me. Okay. Yeah, try that. If that Hibernate doesn't work, let me know, and I'll fix it in iOS. It should work, though. I saw the code in there. Yeah, ideally we want to have the Hibernate work for all the systems. I know it works in Android real well. We made sure it worked in Android well. But I remember the code being in iOS, so. But I have no problems adding it if it doesn't work. Should be simple enough. Okay, I'll double check Ed. Ed's talking about the forum thread that was about tables, and I just haven't kept up with it. It may be an issue where we just need to get a bug in there. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I would say let's just get a bug in there. Let's get a feature request in there, how you guys want it, and we can talk about it on the bug or in the feature request if there's not one already in there. That'd probably be the easiest way to go that direction. All right. See you later, Scott. All right. Any last questions? Otherwise, I think we're ready to end this. Going once, going twice. Okay, I think we're done. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming to the meetup. I don't have a topic for next week, so I am totally up for somebody who wants to suggest a topic or has a burning topic they want to talk about or present on. Otherwise, you're probably going to hear me figure out something. But you guys can always present. I love having you guys help present because this is a community building thing, and I enjoy hearing what you guys have to show and showcase and other users. It's not just us showcasing stuff, it's you guys showcasing stuff too. So if you got an idea or you have a topic you want to talk about, let me know. All right, guys, take care, and see you next month.